Hello, I'm Mark Pugac and welcome to Game On. Contrasting fortunes for last season's top two this week. Liverpool lose at home in the league for the fifth time in a row. Meanwhile, Manchester City extend their winning run in all competitions to 21 matches. Joining us to discuss all this, too many played on either side of Manchester, Micah Richards, once of Manchester City, and Viv Anderson, Manchester United's former fullback, and the Daily Mail's chief sports writer, Martin Samuel. Hello, everybody. Good to see you looking so well. Micah, Viv, great to have you back with us. Let's start with Liverpool, Micah. This is completely unprecedented. I mean, this is off the scale, isn't it? The great Liverpool, having won the title so deservedly, now losing 5 home league games in a row. We can't just be injuries. What do you think is going on?
To be honest, when I see it happening, I'm gobsmacked, to be honest. Teams now are not giving Liverpool as much respect as they used to. Do you remember when Man City was playing ridiculous football and everyone just dropped and everyone was just... But now it's like, well, if you look at their back four, with no Van Dijk, no Gomez, no Matip, we can actually have a go. And you've seen it with Villa earlier on in the season, and that's when they had. But there was... The way the fullbacks play, you're always going to get chances because Trent and Robertson are so good going forward. They're always going to leave spaces, and it's like people exploiting them spaces in there. So I am surprised. I'm very surprised, to be honest. But I would just put it down to fatigue. I think to go Champions League final, win a Champions League, then win a league, at some stage you are going to get tired, and the other teams have just stepped up, and that no fear.
I think it's tiredness, and I think it's confidence. You know, who's going to score if Salah doesn't score? Who's going to score goals for them? You know, it's a difficult period they're going through, and I didn't expect it to fall off the cliff so spectacularly as it's done. Really, 5 games at home is unheard of. What was the record before that? They must have gone, I don't know how many games.
They're the first champions ever to do. Oh, they had lost for 68 games at home in the league.
I mean, and then lose 5 on the spin.
Do you also think, Viv, the way in which our leading clubs now, Micah used the word, there is an intensity, gegenpressing obviously is what Klopp likes to call it. There is an intensity about the way they play now. And as Micah says, Viv, is it inevitable that physically you can only do that for a certain amount of time before it all catches up with you?
I think so, especially in this unique season where the games are coming thick and fast. I heard Ollie saying they play a game every 3 days or something like that. You know, that intensity and to play at that level is very, very difficult.
Martin, there are problems further up the pitch as well, aren't there? Salah looked thoroughly dischuffed to be taken off yesterday.
He always does.
The Salah, yeah, he always does. But the Salah, Firmino, Mane, Traoré, it's been so good. You just wonder whether it's coming to the end of its natural shelf life, if only because one of them fancies, you know, a new adventure.
They've got Jota. They've got Jota, who has been out for a lot of the season and who made a difference, I thought, when he came on last night, and had certainly made a difference before he got injured. I think I totally agree with what the guys say there about tiredness, and I've been saying it all season. You can't do what Liverpool have done the last 2 or 3 years and then go into a season with this enormous intensity without it having some effect. But there was something else last night that I would be very, very worried about if I was Klopp. So Tuchel gets interviewed just before the game, and they say, "Oh, why Timo Werner?" And usually managers sort of try to hide why they're doing certain things, like, you know, keep their cards close to their chest. And he went, well, he's fast, and they play a very high line. And he didn't actually say, so what we're going to do, we're just going to bang it over the top and he's going to run onto it. And that's what we're going to do. It didn't make it as clear as that, but he might just as well have. Mm-hmm. And then you saw him in the tunnel at half time. They just caught him in the tunnel and he's got his players around him and he's literally going over the top. Yeah. And you're thinking, no, it can't be that easy. It can't be that easy. You just knock it over the top and their defence can't handle that. But it was. That's exactly what Chelsea did. I mean, I'm not saying they were a long ball. They played a long ball game because they mess about with it at the back more than just about anybody, really. Knock it there, knock it there. But once they were out, once they got out from the back, they were looking to hit it straight over the top and Werner was to run onto it. And if he had the patience to stay on side, it caught Liverpool, I don't know, 6-7 times out of 10. I mean,
would he have done that with Van Dijk in the team, Martin?
Well, all I would say, Viv, is that Before Van Dijk got injured, they conceded 13 goals in 6 matches, Liverpool. They conceded 3 against Leeds. They conceded 7 against Aston Villa. And that was with Van Dijk in the team.
There's every chance now that Liverpool will not finish in the top 4. There's a really serious chance now. From your experience recently of being in a dressing room, can you sense when a team's natural shelf life is coming to an end?
You normally can. There was a time under Mark Hughes where we was just, I won't say going through, it just felt like he got us as far as he could go. I wouldn't say that with Klopp by any stretch of the matter. Because,
but maybe this set of players with Klopp.
But you'd always need to add. The problem, Martin makes a great point. Jota, since he come into the team, was massive for them. Before he got injured, he was amazing. And sometimes, you look at Manchester City now, we've always relied on the big players, Aguero, De Bruyne, Yaya, Toure, Silva, company. But now, they've managed to balance a team where whoever plays, they're still playing the same way and people are stepping up. There's been too much pressure on Firmino, Salah and Mane to do the business. And then they brought Alisson in, which was a massive signing. They brought Van Dijk in, which was obviously a massive signing. But there's too much reliance. Where's the rest of the team? Like Thiago, I don't know, people say, well, he needs time to settle in, but he's a Champions League winner. He must be able to hit the ground running. They must have known what they were signing when he was back. So I don't really buy people giving him excuses. Liverpool have recruited well. It's just the players, unfortunately, injured with Jota and Thiago. I expected a lot more from it. Kabak's been brought in. I don't think he's going to be a world beater after watching him these first few games. But they need to just go into recruitment, end of the season. They need a proper striker. They need someone who, if plan A is not working, to go to plan B. You know, it's too easy. Teams are finding it too easy to play against Liverpool at this moment because they know the way they're going to play. Martin makes a great point. They know they're going to play a high line. So, all right, we'll play Werner. We'll play our fastest striker in the squad. And maybe it is confidence and maybe it's just tiredness. And maybe next season, we're talking about Liverpool being one of the best teams in the league again. That's just how it happens. But if they don't get Champions League, it will be worrying. And the player that they might have got last season in the transfer market might want to go somewhere else. Liverpool will always attract top players because it's a top club. But that Champions League, the top players are going to want to play in the Champions League.
Viv, we have to say that Thomas Tuchel's getting it right, isn't he? He really is getting it right. He might micromanage and be very intense and be extremely particular, but he's changed the system. There's a few players who come in from the cold who weren't playing under Frank Lampard. And I mean, you wouldn't be surprised if they finish second. Sorry to say that with your Manchester United allegiance, but frankly, you wouldn't be that surprised if they finish second, Chelsea.
I'd be very surprised. No, seriously, I watched them last night and they played very, very well. I must admit, they created a lot of chances, didn't take them, but they were very organised, and I thought very, very good. The goal scorer was great. He's played really well. He has recently. I mean, he left him out of the first game. And everybody thought up in arms saying, what you doing? But I understand when you walk into a new club, you want experience in that team. You want to make sure you don't get beat in your first game. And that's why he went with experience. But after one game, he realised you've got to put him in.
He's their best player, really. Is Mason Mount their best player? I mean, it's a serious question.
Yeah, I would say he's got to be up there. You know, how old is he? 20? Mika, is he 20, 21?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. The one where I seen how good he was against Atletico Madrid. That's when I thought, wow, because I've always been a Grealish and Maddison fan. You know, I've been harping on about them all season. But that performance in terms of the way he was so calm and composed, but then pressed, he was great in possession. You know, like sometimes you see young players and in the Premier League, it's all hustle and bustle at times, and you get so many chances to create things. But in European games, it's a little bit difficult because, you know, Atletico can be tactically astute. And the way I see Mount was so disciplined, but wanting to get on the ball, but doing his defensive well, but breaking the lines when he needed to. That was a performance when I say, wow, this guy needs to be talked in the same light of the Grealish and Maddison, and maybe they might score more spectacular goals. Like Grealish might beat 5 players and score, whereas Mount, he's just got that professional performance where he can play anywhere in the midfield, and he does it with discipline. So yeah, I have to agree with Viv. He is at this moment one of their most important players. He really is.
Martin, he's a great mover, isn't he? He's taken his chance.
Fantastic.
And he's given... Gareth Southgate has got a phenomenally pleasant problem. Grealish, Maddison, Mount, Foden.
I mean, 2 of them are injured at the moment. That's why he hasn't got so much of a problem in the next one, because I think 2 of those guys will be missing. But a few weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, talking to Arsene Wenger, he's done all these studies to do with FIFA, where it talks about where young players separate, where they separate from the rest. And 21 is a very, very big age. That people go along at the same sort of speed or whatever. And then at 21, the very, very best, that's where they go. Messi, Ronaldo, all of, those players, that level of player, that's the age at which they move away from the pack. And that's the age that Mason Mount is now. And it seems to be happening. It seems to be happening for him. You look at a guy like Marcus Rashford, it needs to happen for him at the same time, where he just moves away from his peers, basically.
How good do you think he can be, though, Martin? How good? Because we have put so much pressure on young English talents. So we had Lampard, we had Gerrard, and how good do you believe he can be? Because I've sort of had my goggles on Grealish and Maddison and I've sort of just. I'm not putting him into the background, but it was only that athletical performance where I thought, yeah, he's in that bracket.
I think he's got I think if you are running Chelsea's, I know Jorginho is the fulcrum position or whatever, but Mount is probably their most important forward midfield player at the moment. And if you are playing that role for Chelsea, and he was playing it for Frank Lampard, and Tuchel has come in, and you're talking about a guy who has so far beaten Jose Mourinho away from home, Diego Simeone away from home, and Jurgen Klopp away from home. So
without conceding a goal.
Without conceding a goal, he's hit the ground running. And after one game, he looked at, and I was at that game. And Mount came on for the last 10 or 15 minutes and looked a different class to anything that had gone before. And you just thought, surely Tuchel's going to realise who the player is at this club. And I think if you are in that position at Chelsea at the moment, I don't know what you guys think, but if you're in that position at Chelsea at the moment at his age, well, sky's the limit, basically. I mean, it really is. He's like Phil Foden. If you are fulfilling that role in that Manchester City team, well, where do you stop?
Viv, that's very encouraging, isn't it? You've got Foden at City. I'm not making this an English-centric thing. Well, let's say more a British thing, that British players are now getting key positions at key clubs. Foden, Grealish, Mount. We mentioned Maddison as well. That's really encouraging, isn't it?
It is really encouraging. And Mika's old club, Man City, with Foden, they had ample opportunities to let him go out on loan. But they said, no, let him learn his trade here with all the players we've got, all the great players we've got here. And obviously they thought sooner or later he's going to get his chance and he's going to take it. And he's going to be a regular in the team. And that's what's happened.
You can go out on loan to Preston North End, or you can stay and work with Pep Guardiola. What's going to produce, what is going to produce a better player? And some of the loans.
Don't forget, Beckham went to Preston on loan.
Oh no, that's what I mean. Absolutely, yeah. That's true. No, nothing against Preston North End, I promise. Nothing against. But what I mean is, you can go here, you can go there, but you're working with Pep Guardiola. And
as a young player, you want to be in the team, don't you? Mika was in very early on, and you see everybody, all the accolades they're getting, they're playing in the team week in, week out, and you're sitting there thinking, I've played once or twice. You're thinking, I just want to get out and play, at that age. But Phil went, no, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to learn from what players around me. And when I get my chance, I'm going to go in. And he's got to take a lot of credit for that.
Well, I mean, I thought that was fantastic with Curtis Jones. Was it last season or the season before? And he had a storming game in the cup or whatever and scored the goal and stuff. And they interviewed him afterwards. And, this team haven't lost for about 60 matches or something like that. And they, he said, and he actually said I should be in the team more. He said, you know, I should be the team. What you're thinking? What, this team? And you're thinking, well, good on you, son, because you obviously really fancy yourself, and that's coming right as well. He looks.
Let me just interrupt there. Tony Woodcock did exactly the same thing. I'm in the team, Young Forest team, and Duffy's there and everything else. So I'm winding him up all week and going, go and see him, go and see him. I'm in the team. You're not in the team. So he goes in this time and he knocks on the door and he said, yes, son. He said, come in. There's And I'm listening at the door, and he says, what do you want, son? I said, I want to be in the team. He said, my team? He says, yeah, your team. He said, ideally, where do you want to play in my team? He said, well, just behind a striker, floating around there. He said, get out my office. You're either a forward or a midfield player. Get out. True story.
Brilliant.
Fantastic.
Any day with the Brian Clough story is a good day, Viv. Let's finish with the Manchester derby this weekend. Viv, let's start with you.
Do we have to?
Goal. Yeah. Come on. Well, because last time City were about to win the league, United went and won 3-2, having been 2 down. So,
I was at that game. I was at that game, and we should have been 5 down at half time.
Yeah.
And I went with some friends of mine, and I was going, I'm not going to go out there second half because this will be an absolute embarrassment. We went out and we scored within about 5 minutes, and then 2-1, and we go, we scored again, and then we end up winning. I mean, I couldn't believe it. So they're in unbelievable form at the moment. For Manchester United to go there, listen, form really goes out the window in derby matches. Mick has played in enough of them. You're saying to one another in just room, come on, we've got to win today. We've got added incentive, Man United boys, to say we can stop their unbeaten run or whatever it is. If you said to Wally, I can go there and get a draw, 1-1 or 2-2, you'd snap your legs off.
Yeah. Micah, that would be a loss for City now, isn't it?
Wishful thinking from Viv there.
It's lost.
No, I think I've got to agree with him. In a derby, everything goes out in the window, but this time there's no fans. Yeah. So the atmosphere is not gonna be there. And the way City are playing at this moment in time, no matter who they pick, I just think they'll be too strong for United. United at times are tedious to watch. I said when they was top of the league that I didn't believe that they could win the league just because they find it difficult to break big teams down. Mm-hmm. They really do in the big game. Like they'll score a lot of goals, but they score a lot of goals against the teams who they should be winning anyway, realistically. So I always thought whenever it's a big game, they just make it too boring. And a prime example was Liverpool. Was it 0-0 draw, wasn't it? But, but Man United, Liverpool was going through a rocky patch at the time where Liverpool, you could get at them. And Man United couldn't, they didn't, I don't know if it had the confidence or they just was happy to go to Anfield and get a draw, because you go to Anfield and get a draw, it's a great result in a normal season. But this season, it's been completely different. And that's when I thought, Man United can't win the league because it's almost like they don't believe that they can be better than Liverpool.
What has Pep done slightly differently this season? Because he has, particularly since that poor run before Christmas, losing at home to Leicester, a few 1-1 draws. I'm just reading this week that maybe, we talked about it with Tuchel, it's not quite so intense and micromanaging, particularly as we're in the pandemic. Just a little nuanced shift in the way he goes about things. Would that be right? It looks like that.
I think because of the so many games, Brady always liked to press the ball, but press the ball high. But now they've gone to more tiki-taka style of play, more starve the opposition of the ball. Cancelo's been great in that, in terms of going into the midfield and creating the space, leaving Mahrez and Sterling wide. So they're almost like one versus one situation. The difference with Walker is he tries to get down that every time he gets the ball, and people have sort of, I don't say worked them out, but they thought, well, we know how Man City are going to play, but the way he's changed, even Zinchenko, he's not the best fullback in the world, but in terms of knowing how to play that fullback who wants to play inside to create spaces for the one-on-one wide players, it's just been fantastic to watch. And yeah, I have heard him say we can't press as much as we want to do because there's just too many games. And he's playing possession-based football and taking the chances.
Martin, what are your thoughts going ahead to the derby at the weekend?
I mean, you can't see beyond Manchester City at the moment. I agree with what the guys have said. The funny thing with Manchester United is that you would think that their strength is in the forward line. When you look at the players they've got at their disposal, and yet when they play one of the better teams, they don't score. The constant 0-0 draws. You do wonder whether if fans had been in the stadium, they wouldn't have stood for some of those games fizzling out the way they did. That
100%.
There's been a few matches where it looks as if everyone's just gone, with about 15 minutes to go, right, we're not going to hurt each other here. And, you're happy with a point, I'm happy with a point, right, let's call it quits. And I don't think that can happen when you've got 70,000 people at Old Trafford or 60,000 people somewhere else.
That's all we got time for this week. My thanks to Viv Anderson, to Micah Richards and to Martin Samuel. Before we go, here's broadcaster and West Ham fan Bianca Westwood on her love of the Hammers. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.
I didn't really have a choice because my stepdad is a West Ham fan. The first time I went, I just remember there was like a palpable buzz in the air. There was lots of kind of big burly men, everyone packed in. But nothing could really prepare me for when I very first walked into the stadium and going up the steps. And I still get a little buzz now whenever I see a picture the first time on a Saturday. It's really weird. But the first time I saw the bowling ground, the pitch, floodlit, I was just like, wow, this is it. I was in love. It was Frank McAviney. He had that shock of bleach blonde hair and the mullet, and when he was sort of running towards goal, it was sort of like flash in the wind, and he looked like he should be in Miami Vice or Duran or something like that. He was just like, he had character, he had swagger. In the 80s, you could actually run on the pitch after a match, especially at the end of the season, and I did that one season. I was very young and stupid, and I told him I loved him. I ran straight up to him and said, Frankie, I love you. So cringe. But he knows about this because since then, obviously, we're friends, and I've told him, and he gets a good kick out of that. And he always teases Tony Cottee because Frank was my favourite. Definitely the last game at Upton Park, the farewell to the Boleyn. It was so special, and it had everything as well. We'd had a fantastic season under Slaven. We were playing exciting, exhilarating football. It was against Man United as well. We won it in exciting fashion. I had the honour of hosting on the pitch alongside Ben Shepherd as well. I interviewed Paolo Di Canio on the pitch. I interviewed Sir Trevor Brooking. It just meant so much to me because I'd grown up there. I started off in the North Bank, in the terraces at 10 years old, and to sort of progress as a person, as a woman, as a football fan. I'd grown up seeing all these players and the highs and the lows at Upton Park. I just love that place, and I think I'll miss it forever. I'd say probably the most annoying thing about being a West Ham fan is when the good times do happen, kind of like now, you're always kind of thinking, when's it going to end? You can't enjoy it. We've always been the nearly men, the nearly club, the club that snatches defeat from the jaws of victory like we did in the cup final against Liverpool. It's come on you irons, and everybody, whether it's Upton Park or the London Stadium, and just thinking about it now, I get goosebumps. Everybody sings it all in unison. Come on, you irons. And it really does. It really kind of sets my hairs on end. I'm so pleased for David Moyes because a lot of people were unsure about him returning. But he's brought in some super players as well, like Souček and Soufal. You know, they've been phenomenal. Declan Rice has been fantastic there, but he's got the fringe players as well playing really well. For the first time, there's a real spirit and strength and togetherness at West Ham, and we haven't felt that for a really long time, and a lot of that, and I know this for a fact, is down to David Moyes. So brilliant job so far, keep it up.